Welcome everyone, and we have people online as well as people in the audience here, part of our new hybrid world. And this is a special session on pathways to purpose, advancing your career and social impact. And we're going to talk about careers and social impact. We're going to talk about education and our program here at the Centre for Social Impact, and how what we've seen over the last 13 years is a development of a great network of people here in Western Australia and across Australia, because there are people from different parts of Australia here today that are all engaged in that work around social impact. So let me begin by first acknowledging that we're on Whadjuk Noongar land and pay our respects to the elders. This was working a second ago. But yeah, and pay our respects to the elders of this land. So the purpose of tonight is to talk about careers and social impact and the education that leads to those careers. The term social impact was a term that wasn't used very much. So when we first started, everyone was asking the question, what does this term mean? Social impact. And I said quite simply about the difference that you want to make in society. So you're concerned about making a change, making a difference. And the Centre for Social Impact was concerned with not only thinking about managing that change that you're trying to make, the difference, but demonstrating the impact through good measurement and evaluation, financing that impact, both in terms of general funds and in terms of impact investment, the new world of social finance and so on. Innovation, social innovation, the development of social enterprises that we began to see 15 years ago, and so on. So we saw this term being used more and more. Indeed, what we've seen in a number of organisations is the conversion of management positions, the conversion of evaluation positions, finance positions into social impact manager, social impact evaluator, and so on. And you can see that, for example, with Lottery West, where they created that social impact hub. They created a whole group of people. And why did they do that at Lottery West? Because they were concerned that their grants made an impact. It wasn't so much about ensuring that organisations were able to continue their work, but that organisations would use that funding to make a difference. And of course, we need to measure that difference. Lottery West, in terms of funding, of course, is providing funds, but we've seen the expansion of the world of social finance, finance geared to impact. And as I said, in what is often described as the for-purpose sector, the concern about making a difference in the lives of people rather than just continuing business as usual. So the focus moved to impact, moved to the outcomes that you're trying to achieve. And to align with that, positions started to be created with that term social impact in. So it's quite a significant ecosystem that we have now in terms of social impact. So we do have that not-for-profit manager, the charity sector manager, leader, CEO, because the charity sector is entirely a for-purpose sector. The difference now is that you are seeing these terms, social impact manager or leader, or social impact evaluator, being applied within that for-purpose sector directly. But we want to expand out beyond that, because what we've seen also is the development of the social enterprise and social business sector. And that business sector is not just a not-for-profit sector, it is a for-profit, for-purpose area. We've seen the development of businesses that have direct purpose in what they do, as well as making a profit, as well as the traditional not-for-profit social enterprise. But we've seen other groups develop as well. And this goes into government policy, where again, if you're looking at the human services departments, there have been these new positions created around social impact. I get these messages from LinkedIn all the time. You hear there's a new position, it's a social impact position. The last one I saw was from the local government sector. And we've had a lot of people from the local government sector engaged in our programs. But the last sector to talk about, and it's not one that we often refer to here in terms of social impact, is the corporate sector. So the corporate sector has a significant number of positions, and we've seen the evolution of business and the corporate sector over time. So a lot of businesses, a lot of the largest corporates are talking about the social value of their business, the transformation of the work that they're doing. And there are a number of positions in the corporate sector that are around social performance of that business. So here we're talking about not only the community investment programs that they run, which is essentially corporate philanthropy, and in that corporate philanthropy area, they engage directly with generally community organizations that they're providing grants to achieve a certain end. So that's the corporate philanthropy community investment part, but they're also concerned about measuring the impact that they're making in the local areas that they operate in. And we have seen the big development, obviously, in recent times of ESG reporting. That's the environment, social governance area. So a number of our students from the past are now working in the corporate sector in ESG reporting or ESG consulting. And I might mention the consulting area is a big area as well, a social impact consultant. And it may not be the term, the social impact hub or the impact unit or whatever, but we've got light terms like the social innovation unit. And so we've seen this expansion right across the different sectors in terms of the work of social impact. So what do we do here at the Centre for Social Impact? We do education, research, and engagement, as you saw in the video. In education, we run the Graduate Certificate in Social Impact. And that Graduate Certificate in Social Impact is 4 units that are part of the MBA. And those 4 units cover the areas of demonstrating social impact, which is about measurement. They cover the areas of finance, the funding of social impact, which is, in terms of philanthropy, government grants, and the new world of impact investing. We cover the areas of social enterprise and social innovation, and then the area of social leadership. And leadership in the social sector, the for-purpose sector, is not just about leading yourself and leading your team and leading your business or your organization, but it's leading often collaborations that need to work, those collaborations of organizations that need to work together to create change. So they're the 4 units of the grad cert, and you can do those 4 units in the grad cert and then move on to the MBA, and you get what we call the 2 degrees for the price of 1. Just be very careful because sometimes it moves around. If you do the MBA and then do the units, you depending on the rules of the year, sometimes it hasn't worked out that you can get the 2 degrees. But if you start with a grad cert, all of those units articulate into the MBA. And one of the great benefits, of course, is the fact that it's not only the learning, but the networks. And that's so important. Now, this is where we bring in the panel. And the panel who are here today are current students, former students, and teachers in the grad cert in social impact, who are engaged in work in various sectors at the same time. So all of our students are engaged in different parts of the for-purpose sector. And what's been interesting has been the fact that I can go to 2011 or 2015 and look at that cohort and say, wow, look at what they've been doing. They're they've created their own social enterprise, or they've got their own consultancy, or they've created a hub of people in the government sector or in the corporate sector, or what have you. There's a great network, and of course we have the Alumni for Social Impact, which Tim is currently managing right now. So let's bring on down our group, our panel group. So we have Fiona. I didn't think of this being a process of come on down, but let's
run down.
run down the stage. But let's have Fiona, Tim. Fiona is a current student in the grad cert, fantastic work. And we do now have about 30 or 40 people online, don't we?
30 online.
30 online, fantastic. And I might say, as we get into this session further, because you're obviously wanting to hear from the panel, that we do, with the online group, have not Spotify, because that's what you use music for, but Slido. We have Slido online, which means that you can put questions there, and with those questions, we can choose the ones that are most important. Like here, we have the group. And then we have Rebecca, who's just completed the grad cert in social impact, and I might say was a scholarship winner. We do have scholarships for the grad cert in social impact. And we have Galen, who was part of our first cohort, 2011. But last but not least, and everyone knows this, we have Renu. So, and Renu holds a special place for us because not only has she been teaching in the grad cert in social impact since its inception, but she's been teaching in the MBA since 1992, and she was fundamental in setting up the grad cert in social impact and the Centre for Social Impact. So she holds a special place, and her unit leadership for social impact is often rated the highest, and I often am very envious because your results are so much better than mine. But that's another matter. So let's get the discussion going, and perhaps what we can just get everyone to talk about, Fiona, onwards, is your career as a student, but also your career in social impact, what you're doing, kind of networks you see, and the great importance of this social impact sector that we're seeing develop.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name's Fiona. I have always worked in the community development sector. So for the majority of the last 20 years, that's been based in Southeast Asia. And then obviously COVID hit and I couldn't leave Perth, which was hard, and so had to reimagine what I wanted to do and how I could transfer my skill set. So moved into the community development sector here in Western Australia, and I think with that travel I then became incredibly curious, even more curious than I'd been before, as to what did all of this mean. So I think when you're in community development, obviously you have got this passion to make a difference. You want to hear and be led by community in what they see their future to be. So it's very much asset-based approaches. And then also, of course, you've got to sweet talk and be nice to the people that give you the money. So you're always caught as the coordinator or program manager between these two worlds of just being very happy, sitting on the floor with your shoes off, talking to community, listening to what they want, and trying to be innovative and thinking of solutions. And then, of course, you've got to put your shoes back on and brush your hair and go out into that corporate world or government world and beg for money. So in both ways, I think I just became obsessed with saying, well, this is all very well and good, it's great, but what does it all mean? And becoming curious in terms of showing the evidence, both to community but also to the funders, of what was happening in that space, so that it wasn't just this revolving door and the same things happening year on year out. So when COVID hit and I couldn't travel, I started looking at other things to keep me occupied and fell onto this course. It took me a couple of goes. I applied, I got in, then got cold feet and pulled out and deferred, and then took a big brave deep breath and started last January, and I have not looked back, and it's been the absolutely best thing that I've ever done. Made some great friends, met some amazing people, and used to keep dogs. And yeah, have just absolutely lapped up everything that I learned. So I hadn't studied since I finished a master's in London 25 years ago. So that was an incredibly scary thing to come back and be faced with. You need to read these 20 articles before Saturday and then talk in an articulate fashion with peers and demonstrate your knowledge. And don't get me wrong, that fear never really went away, but the support that I had from people in the room, so there would generally be about 20 people in every unit, so the 4 units, and we all became incredibly close, had each other's backs, had wonderful lecturers to support us. And it was just fascinating. Everything that we learned, loads of group projects. And it was just, yeah, it's just been an incredible ride, an incredible journey. I'm very proud and happy to say that I submitted the very last assignment in Renu's unit yesterday. Well, I didn't submit it yesterday morning at 9 o'clock in the morning. That would have been really scary, but it was due yesterday at 9 o'clock. So, yeah.
It's better than the usual 11:59.
Oh, and then the panic of it's 12:01. Will I get marks deducted? That was never me. So yeah, for the last year or so, I worked for alumni UWA across various roles, and it's been very timely doing the leadership unit in particular, because the program that I manage there is a complex one, with 14 different stakeholders all contributing to the same service and outcomes. So yeah, on any given day, it can be quite tricky, and things that I've learned have really helped me with that courage and patience and negotiation to be able to navigate through.
Great, fantastic. And Tim, I mean, you currently are managing with others the Alumni for Social Impact. Tell us about the event the other night.
Yeah, it was fantastic. We had an event the other night. So one of the great things about the grad certificate is when you have 13 years of other people you can connect with who are all like-minded, who really want to learn more about social impact, make a difference, and from all sectors. You get from corporate, from local government, from not-for-profit, everybody. There's people involved, and so we had an event the other night where we were talking about, it was Halloween themed because we were near Halloween, and it was social impact horror stories. So we had a fantastic panel get up and tell us about how hard it is to make social impact. Making change in any environment is difficult, and how this is hard, but also what you can learn from it, and when you don't have to learn maybe necessarily, when you're experiencing, and just having that kind of close-knit connection with other alumni is fantastic. It's one of the highlights of the courses, being able to connect with other cohorts afterwards.
Yeah, and you did your study in the MBA,
Yep.
but doing grad cert units, and therefore have the MBA social impact.
Right.
Title. What sector or what background did you come from?
Yeah, so I was working in South America in economic empowerment, working with a social enterprise with the purpose of helping small and medium-sized businesses integrate into the financial system. I could talk hours about that, but I won't tonight. But find me if anybody's interested. I could talk your ear off. But there's just a lot of work that needs to be done in that sector, and kind of stumbled into Australia through my in-laws and COVID, and landed here, which was fantastic because I was able to connect with the Center for Social Impact and the grad cert.
Yeah, fantastic. And of course, the social enterprise sector is one of the sectors that we connect to. There's also and we have the West Australian Social Enterprise Council that is trying to support the development of social enterprises. That's strongly linked to the world of social finance that are investing in social enterprises. And we've seen the development, for example, of Impact Seed here in WA from a very small beginning with one of our former students. And Impact Seed is all about getting that financing to develop social initiatives, but also social enterprises. So that's just one of our worlds. And of course, Fiona, coming from the community sector, is a significant part of our connections as well. So Rebecca, tell us a little bit about your story.
I think like Fiona, I started in community services sector. So I've, for 20 plus years, worked in the background of child protection, homelessness, family and domestic violence, disability, youth, that sort of background. I started in the Department of Communities many years ago. My undergraduate is psychology, so Bachelor of Psych, and I fell into child protection, never meant to stay, fell in love with working with families and seeing successful impacts and what that meant. Fast forward sort of 20 years and then ending up in leadership positions of having to talk about, well, how are we measuring our outcomes and what does that mean? And the department was exceptional in some respects, but social impact was such a growing area, and I had been working alongside Paul and the team, particularly around homelessness on the periphery, and looking at this amazing unit. And for 13 years, and probably 12, 11 years, as amazing as that, I said to myself, that's a unit I have to do. Like, I want to know more. I want to know more about how we can leverage off leadership, our social impact in our communities. I want to know more about evaluation. I want to know more about how we can document and evidence outcomes and how we can turn that into funding. And other backgrounds in procurement and contracting, etc. So for me, this was a tangible, and it was sort of that next step in my progression. So I don't know why I put it off for so long, but 11 years later, here I then came. I applied, and so for me, I had heard that if you do some of the master's units, and this course is available for all master's students. So I had heard that the complexities of if you have a dabble of some master's units and some social impact units, you didn't get that clean degree. So I thought, I'm going to do social impact first and then follow through with the master's. So hopefully come out with a master's specialising in social impact, which I think it's a wonderful complement, particularly around the, I'm in the S and the G, so the social and the governance and the leadership side and finance. But for me, it has touch points. So I'm on boards. We talk about, how do we engage in philanthropy and, getting inside, looking at our impact, looking at our annual reporting. What does that mean? Fast forward just recently, I was an executive director of an Aboriginal community controlled organisation specialising in out-of-home care for Aboriginal children. And just recently, I've moved into a lead role for Australia and New Zealand in change management framework. So very different roles, but I take what I've learnt here through all steps of the process. And really what called to me is that we deal with wicked problems in our community, and getting inside it and learning how we could leverage at different points, be it private, government, not-for-profits, or in whatever industry we're in, and how we can take that and use it. That was what drew me in.
Fantastic, good. And Galen, of course, you were here in 2011 when it all started. Mm. So I remember you well. I thought you sort of tended to be near the front too, from memory, because you sort of remember where people sit. They always try. No, I was just going to say, if you saw the video, Fiona was at the back and always takes a position somewhere at the back. So we do have most of our units in the case study rooms, or Renu actually prefers the flat rooms because she's got more room. More room for those circles, and you can't really get circles going in here so easily. So, but Galen, tell us about your story, because you are one one of the original ones, if you like, in terms of the grad cert. at least.
But not special. Okay, so I've been working in like projects and change for about 30 years, just in various sectors, and like everything, from technology and .com IPOs to government and governments in WA, New South Wales, and in UK. And when I came back from the UK, it was just before the GFC, and I was looking for what to do next, and I started the old EMBA. Actually, Renu was was one of my professors, actually the director of the MBA back then. So, and it was quite heavy on strategy. So for me, I was really wanting to get more strategic, and a lot of it was about strategic value. And the more we were doing about it, the more I was like, it was more broadening, and it was more long term. And then I started getting more interested in sustainability. And I was a bit nerdy, and I don't know if you know this, but because Gary, I don't think you knew, and it's not a good thing. I studied the second degree in parallel at Curtin doing sustainability, and like a grad cert. And so by the end of it, I was learning strategic management and sustainability, and it was covering a lot, but it was more environmental. And what I was missing is, I think, the social. And also at the same time, that was around, there's been ups and downs in climate change and sustainability, and that was quite divisive back then, politically divisive. Whereas I found social sustainability, social impact was it was more inclusive, and it brought people together no matter what sort of part of the political spectrum we were. So after I finished my EMBA in 2010, and then social impact started in 2011, so I kind of rushed to get in on that. And it was, really good, to the point where my wife's done the EMBA, not the MBA, and she's also done social impact as well. So I guess since then, I currently work for partner communities, and actually the main reason I'm there is because I was looking at what could be impactful, applying my strengths and my experience. So I essentially lead the EPMO, so look after project capability and project governance, because I see if you've got the WA strategy for homelessness or child, we actually don't have one for child protection but how do you get from a strategy or a strategic intent to all the initiatives and outcomes? And unfortunately, project management in government tends to be done like houses, so they just start lots of them, but you don't necessarily social projects are very different. And so essentially my area of focus now has been probably 30 years, but in the last 10 years, 15 years, more social impact sustainability, including for the UN, which I actually got through connections and being able to speak the language fluently around social impact. Have been in essentially for projects and programs of strategy execution for social impact and well-being. And so I've done some other studies in that space, but fundamentally I'm attracted to how do we make a difference through all the things we do, and understand that difference, and kind of just help smart people do better work that leads to better outcomes.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we do see is this transfer of people. So the movement between the community sector, social enterprises, finance, the corporate sector with sustainability reporting, industry reporting, and the like. It's quite fluid. And so we have seen people move between different sectors into the corporate sector, from the corporate sector into the community sector. I think that the grad cert and the network, and the fact that you had a connection, that's something we hear a lot of. You had a connection, because there's a lot of people who've now done this. So that network is very significant. So we're with you, Renu. And as mentioned, you were the director of the MBA when the grad cert started. You made sure that the grad cert was able to get into the MBA, and then you did the leadership unit. And a lot of people refer to that leadership unit as a very inspirational program. So tell us about this program. And you, of course, are doing or have been doing consulting in this world in a number of different areas. So tell us a little bit more about your journey.
Yeah, so I did have lots of government experience before I came to UWA in 1992 as a PhD student. I had a lot of experience in the Commonwealth government, in the tax office of all places, where I did a lot of work around leadership and huge systems transformation and change. So that's where I started off. And in 1992, there was a crisis. A lecturer left and they didn't know what to do, and so they asked me, because I had done lots of leadership work outside of here. So that's where I started, in teaching organizational behavior, and have always taught in the only units to learn in any of these courses, not biased at all, which is about the people, which is my passion. Either serving people and creating leaders who have an interest in it. So I've taught across a lot of different areas, including statistics, Paul, you may be pleased to know, but strategic HR, diversity and inclusion in the people units in the EMBA and the MBA, and lots of organizational behavior. And I was actually had two jobs. I was the director of postgrad programs and the director of MBA for a couple of years concurrently, which is when this opportunity for the social impact stream and the centre came up. Absolutely jumped at it. I remember after the GFC, ethics was very sexy, and we didn't have an ethics unit in the MBA, and I'd been advocating it, and finally we got an ethics unit called something completely different, but it was ethics, and I said this was kind of taking, putting that on steroids if you were going to do social impact. And so I was really passionate about establishing the course. And Galen, if I remember rightly, there was 11 of you in that first year when we started, and one of them was my daughter.
Yeah.
And I can tell you her career, she's had a lot of it. And we also had the daughter of Izan,
Yes.
who was the deputy dean in the class. So these were two of the 11.
And Kate Cheney was there with the baby.
And Kate Cheney was
That's
there.
right.
Yeah, with her baby, so she's in Parliament now. We've had so many illustrious alumni. I think it was Rebecca Tompkinson in your class too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she's the head of the Chamber of Minerals and
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
was Royal Flying Doctor Service.
yeah, and she was CEO of Royal Flying Doctor. So this was the first cohort in this, and we must have over 200, 300 students.
Oh, yeah.
Alumni since then. And for me, what the main purpose of the 4 units in the grad cert is to create leaders and influencers in the community that care about the well-being of all. And it doesn't matter where it comes from, if it's corporate or government or the for-purpose sector. And what, Paul, you said, really encourage you to think about becoming a tri-sector leader. There's a number of people here that have worked across different sectors, and how can you bring that together? Because the biggest problems we face aren't going to be solved by any one sector. And that's a really big focus of all 4 units, is to show you that you can't do any of this alone. It has to be done in collaboration, and it has to be done with a mindset that goes beyond, Friedman. The purpose of an organization is to make a profit for its shareholders. So that's kind of where we come from. So there's a very strong values base around this, about what are you going to create and influence, because if we knew the answers, we wouldn't have the problems. So what we really want is leaders who are innovative and can go beyond boundaries. And I hope that's the experience you've had across all 4 units, in really pushing that out of the box thinking.
And you mentioned Friedman. I mean, up until very recently, with the corporate sector, it was shareholder value alone. And now we are seeing, not across the whole of the corporate sector, but significant number, the use of the term like social value.
Yeah.
We're not just here for shareholder value. It's and even the world of stakeholder kind of capitalism is being used as well. So it's quite an interesting development. Now, what we might do is have a question from the audience. We do have the group online who hopefully can get a question together. So if you're online, just put it either in chat or in Slido. I'm sure that they've been given the Slido link.
That's what it's like.
It's not Spotify.
That's right.
I know what Spotify icon looks like as well. I do, yeah. I'm really up on things like that now. But a question from the audience here first.
Hi, I've got a question for you. You said you work at Anglicare in community development. Is that what?
So I manage a service that's in the statewide services sector, and it's a tri-sector collaboration between Energy Policy WA, 14 NGOs within the Financial Wellbeing Collective, and then Synergy Energy Retail.
Oh, okay. So because you did sort of say, oh, the course sort of helped me, and I was sort of interested in something more specific about how the units had sort of helped you, like what it was that you'd sort of been able to convert into.
And I think it's not so much that product knowledge of whether that's community development or FGB or whatever it might be, and you can certainly focus on specific areas through the assignments. This course has certainly just given me that wider perspective around systems change, and that operating in just a silo of, a flat organisation or just one spot is going to just keep on being that hamster in the wheel. And that you've got to be brave, you've got to be curious and network and to bring about that change. So, different units along the way taught me different things that I can now bring to the work. Certainly Renu's units, the leadership units, absolutely it's transformative and so inspiring. The initial unit as well in social entrepreneurship is fantastic and really, really makes you think outside of the box. And you're constantly reminded of all of the different tools and resources out there, and to be innovative and to constantly question what you're doing, but also what's happening around you.
That tripartite area we're seeing more of. For example, we're currently doing a project with WACOS around digital inclusion. And so we've got, and that's across around 9 different streams of projects. But we're dealing with community organisations, but across the way we'll be talking to a tech kind of group and a business group over there and so on. So it is quite amazing how it's not just a limited world now. Systems change requires all the different sectors to get together. And that's what we're seeing. We've had a number of different people through from different sectors, and it's always this, we ask where you're from in the first session, and you will always get these different points. And I think that someone might be from the government sector, someone might be from the corporate sector, someone might be an entrepreneur, a consultant, community sector, and the interaction of people from different backgrounds, I think, is one of the key benefits. And everyone comes with a lot of great ideas as well. So it's peer learning, I think, is probably more important than anything else other than the news unit, of course. But it's great. You love it.
So much learning.
Yeah.
I can jump in there though, but like in terms of your unit, Paul, so for me, being in government and knowing, wanting to have those tangible tools, so yes, leadership, but having the S, so the social and the governance knowledge that you explore in the cert for social impact, it's really important. Having those, knowing how to develop outcomes, knowing how to develop a theory of change, knowing how then to measure it, what does that look like, how to then we take it into something practical, having ESG reporting, that's something you do, business model analysis and having to do a business model canvas, they're tools I pull out all the time. So in my current role, I've already done a business model canvas and, analysis, looking at touch points, data, I lean into all my skills in terms of the leadership unit, looking at how can we leverage philanthropy, knowing what does that mean, getting inside the corpus and knowing how to get the money out of the corpus. So yeah, it's a whole list of toolkits that you'll be able to pull out from your box all the time.
Interesting. So we have another question here.
Yeah, my name is Sandra, and Galen and I have met before. I tried to snaffle him to teach one of the courses that I ran in the social justice program at Notre Dame. Unfortunately, we couldn't quite grab hook in because this organisation said you can't do multiple things at once, and having just listened to you, I realised that
Yeah,
you
well,
have a habit
you
of
can't do
doing
multiple
that.
things.
Yeah.
I mean, that is often like
True.
a secondary point.
I'm just wondering though, given that the centre is located within business school, how well prepared are your students in terms of their social justice contextual understandings? Because I've had students come and do my courses in social justice from business school and from law school and medicine. Unfortunately, they tend to kind of start with the first year courses, which helps a lot, but many of them are just completely befuddled by notions of what social justice are, which of course is the why to all of this, and understanding what inequity is actually founded on, understanding, you know, colonial issues that are both contemporary and historical. So how do you ensure that they are getting that kind of foundational understanding that then leads into these spaces where you're really preparing students to go out there and nail these things?
Yeah, the majority of the students are coming in with a social justice lesson in the first place. But we will have a smaller number, typically students who see one of our units from the MBA who come in without that kind of background. So they'll have a bit of a time in getting that social context. But you know, those who are sitting here, you can hear their backgrounds, and that's probably the majority have already come in with a social justice lens. But if you don't come in with a social justice lens, but you're interested in this area, you will get it in terms of the practical work that you do. So, for example, we just finished Renu's unit, and the various groups were doing collaborations, social collaborations, and how those social collaborations have worked. So 100 families, for example, was one topic, which is about disadvantage. So they have to have that background around social justice to be able to talk about willingness collaboration, because the content of that collaboration is disadvantage. What were some of the other examples?
We had the energy one.
The energy.
We had the energy one.
Yeah.
We had park, the suicide one.
Yeah.
Town team. They're always fascinating. And one of the things, and people think, you know, the business school and UWA is kind of sandstone elite. It isn't. One of my intentions, and I think of all the 4 units, is you come to class and you can go and apply it the next Monday. So that's kind of the way we've approached putting the curriculum together. And and as you know, people come in, I would say the average number of years of experience, work experience, would be 10 or more in an area that is related, or you know, they're there because there's a calling around it. But we certainly do not cover content. For us, it's much more about how can you lead, influence, and bring together social impact from different organisational perspectives.
Yeah, so in order to accomplish the project that you're working on,
That's the
you kind of-
purpose.
they then backfill that
Yeah.
to have those understandings.
And those kind of group projects we would see in virtually all of the units. Well, the demonstrated social impact one is a little different, because we will do one of the assignments is a more social justice one, but the group project allows students to do something in the corporate sector, to do sustainability reporting, ESG reporting, and so on. And I think being in a business school, I suppose but having a social purpose lens is quite interesting. So, you know, it allows us to get into topics such as, you know, social finance, philanthropy in more detail here, social enterprise, because that's got a business connection. The measurement, more in-depth evaluation kind of work that we do. So we do have that good connection, and as I say, we do cover some of those corporate areas as well. Yeah.
Maybe just two, I guess, quick points. One is, I think sometimes as you get into it, then you basically start acting in a certain way and learning in a certain way, and the social norming is a different way. So you may not start with the mindset, but you develop the mindset, and actually I think it's also you discover a little about yourself in any educational and learning process. So obviously if you're in this situation, I think you're exploring and developing that part of yourself. So you may not start with very clear intention about social justice, but then you find that part of yourself, I think, very quickly. And I think there's two other opportunities, because you're associated with the business school. You get some people coming in for very different motivations. Like there's some people that I'm an overachiever and I need to overachieve, and it's like, what? You're telling me these complex problems? And then all of a sudden they're they're really wow, this is I thought my work was hard, but I'm going to do this because this is the biggest challenge I can find. And all of a sudden because they've never been after the money, they've been after challenging themselves or intrinsic motivation. How they're going to do that. I think also I've met some people who they come from a finance background. For them, it was all about money. Well, I thought it was all about money, but it was actually all about creating value. And now you broaden the definition of value to something more holistic. Yeah. And then they start accounting for value. And it's like, well, now I can apply this to organizations and help them transition and transform the economy. And all of a sudden, you found people that didn't start in this place, but actually are now helping shift, the wider, business and economy. So I think that's
starting to solve problems.
At a broader,
It just opens up literally so many ways of seeing things and understanding things, and then the avenues beyond that.
I'd say I agree. It's kind of a gateway to those who come in through the MBA who have no background. That it opens up the perspective because it connects. And I think that's a credit to the way that facilitators and professors teach it. It connects. It's real world. It's practical, like Renu says. You can use it, and you can apply those concepts to a town hall. You can also apply it to a corporate meeting, and it makes sense. So I think that's why it's really easy to connect.
And very scalable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say, just a quick comment, that I've had probably 3 or 4 of your alumni come and teach at the unit in social justice, and they've just been absolutely fabulous. People like Sonia Nolan, which
So she was part of
absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
Very left of centre, very quirky. Really helped a lot really appealed to a lot of the students. I'm no longer there, by the way, so I'm not here trying to coach or anything. I'm here to do consultancy, but yes, I've appreciated your hard work.
Yeah, good. And Sonia was part of that first group. Aidan, you'll see talking about art and evaluation. He's got a good line here because the art sector, and I came across the term GLAM, which is galleries, libraries and museums, often don't do enough in terms of the social impact of what they're about. And he's got a good thing about the need for good solid evaluation and not just throwing out a report that is designed with the sole purpose of getting more philanthropy money into the GLAM sector. So check him out.
Pretty awesome. Christina Colgate too, of course.
Christina Colgate, and she's someone who's moved between different areas, worked for
Premier and Cabinet now.
Premier and Cabinet, but worked for Indigenous organisations in the past.
I did manage to get her on staff for a couple of years.
That's right, yeah, I saw that.
Which was kind of nice.
Fantastic, good. Do we have a question from the online group?
There are a few that came in, which you managed to answer already. There is one, it's technical about the course. It says, are there any intentions to add more social impact units to the MBA course, like in UNSW? So this is
it is absolutely our intention to create what we call the Masters in Social Impact. We were going to do the grad dip, but the grad dip as a concept got lost at UWA, so we're no longer doing, or UWA's not, or the business school's not doing grad dips. But the Masters in Social Impact is our dream goal. We have looked also at Indigenous business units as well. So yeah, there is that intention to expand out. And we are seeing, by the way, new developments in the MBA, which we're working on as well, particularly around corporate ESG kind of stuff. So hopefully that will get up and running pretty soon, and that would be part of our Masters in Social Impact. Yeah. Good.
And there's also the option of, like, if you really want that, you can always study units here that are applied to that.
Yeah.
And then you get both alumni.
Yeah, exactly.
Galen is a serial, course, I've never seen anyone like Galen.
The optimizer.
Optimizer, yeah. So you can just contact him if you have any questions.
Good. Yeah.
Apologies if I didn't see it or missed it on the material, but I was just wondering what the actual units were.
Yeah.
Obviously talked about a couple of them that picked up on, or some of the panel had, but I hadn't seen that, what the actual 4 units were.
The 4 units. So we start off with a unit called Social Impact.
Yeah.
It was originally meant to be the foundational unit, but what we had was people coming in mid-year and so on. So it sort of become the first unit in the calendar year, but not the unit that you have to start with. So it's just called Social Impact, and that will introduce the term Social Impact, give a context to social impact. But then we go into a whole range of different areas. So social innovation, the world of social innovation, social design, which has become pretty significant. And we try and give a kind of not only an academic but a practical side to social design, because things like co-design became a bit of a fad. But it didn't have the strength behind it. It certainly wasn't systems thinking. So we do social design in quite a bit of detail. We get into the world of social enterprise and social entrepreneurship. And so it covers those kind of topics. That's social impact. Then we do a unit called Demonstrating Social Impact, which is about measurement and evaluation. And the measurement and evaluation covers the entire field. Again, we will do things in a rigorous kind of way, but we also do quite a bit of practice at the same time. That unit does cover a lot. So it's a unit that you come out knowing all about impact evaluation, program evaluation, different ways of measuring, so qualitative and quantitative methods of measurement, and also looking at corporate measurement in sustainability, social impact assessment, and the like. Then we move into a finance unit. So we focus there, in spite of the fact that there is significant government funding, we probably focus in other areas of social purpose funding, which is philanthropy and the world of social finance, particularly impact investing, looking at new instruments such as social impact bonds and the like. That can be a new area for some. So people could have been working in the social purpose sector or the corporate sector, but know nothing about, the nuts and bolts of philanthropy, we know nothing about the nuts and bolts of impact investing. And then the final one is Burr's unit, the social leadership unit, which is, I'm biased, but it's the best leadership unit going around. There are quite a few, because it sort of encompasses traditional, organizational behavior leadership kind of stuff, which is, you've got to lead an organization, but Renu does, and I'm speaking for you here, it stretches it out. So you're leading yourself, and then you're leading social collaborations as well, if you're for purpose. So they're the 4 units.
And you can do them all in the one calendar year.
Yeah, which I think Fiona, you've done.
I have.
So Fee can, speak to that.
It's tough if
It's
you're
tough.
working full time.
Working full-time, parenting, all of life thing. It's tough.
Yeah.
And there's, after the first one, so the social entrepreneur unit, which starts in January or February, there's a little bit of a gap, which is really nice, but then there's not. So the units are back to back, which I've been told I should be really thankful for that they're well, because previously they've overlapped. So at least, being but it's achievable. I'm still alive and
Yeah.
relatively sane. My family's still say they love me.
But you can take it over 2 years.
Yeah.
The only thing is each one's only offered once a year. So if, for example, I had done 3 and then thought I'd want to break, I would have to wait the whole next year to then do the last unit.
And we've kept it face to face.
Yeah.
I mean, apart from periods of COVID where we did hybrid teaching, or rather online teaching, and we have had a bit of hybrid stuff. There's no question that the students really want a face-to-face experience. This is undoubtedly the way that they want it to occur, and they want it intensive, which is, we'll do Friday, Saturday, and another Friday or another Saturday. It's always combinations of Fridays and Saturdays. So, if you're full-time working, yes, there are about 6 Fridays you might take off, or
In the whole year.
Yeah.
Something like
It's
that.
really doable.
Yeah, it's not so much the time off work, especially if work, allow you that study leave. It's more obviously the pressure of the assignments.
Yeah.
But it's definitely doable, definitely worth it.
right. Now we're just about at time. Anything further from the online group?
So,
You're able to answer all their questions. Yeah, and I might just say thanks to Carol, who set this all up for us, and to Dave and Sharif that allow us to, who are members of our team, and are able to do this online world very well, introduce new things such as not Spotify. But thanks everyone for coming. Now we do, yes, Carol.
Can we have maybe a last one question about how each of you, I guess if you had the one tip about how you. Oh, is that how it works?
When you're clubbing.
One tip about, I guess, advancing your career in social impact, because this is what this is about. If you have like the one thing you'd like to share, I know there's probably a few things.
Just never to give up. It's given me so much passion and purpose to keep on going, keep on fighting, keep on being curious.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I'd say it's the ability to look from different perspectives and see there's literally a way to connect the social impact in any work that you do. And there's no work that doesn't integrate with social impact. So it doesn't matter if you are a community worker or if you work for one of the behemoth corporate, there's ways that you can weave social impact into that, and you should be. I would say you have a moral obligation to do so. And this is a great way for you to connect with that and understand how to do that.
I think in addition to that, one thing that we haven't really explored is the fact that the networks that you make in this course are long-standing, and I have reached out to all of my networks and volunteer all the time, and it's very tangible. And if I'm stuck with something at work, I'll reach out to one of my networks that I've made through this unit. For example, one of the students in the unit was a librarian. I had to make a library for kids in out-of-home care, and she was on my speed dial, and we, outside of, through work, we connected and she was able to support. So it's very real and tangible, and it's something that you will take with you. In terms of social impact, you're all here for your own different reasons, and, the journey that you go on, I guess, it will change. And in the words of Renu, you just have to stand on your own balcony and have a look at where you're at, and it will change in different moments in time, but it's definitely something that will stay with you.
Yeah, those networks are very important. It's, we sometimes get a little bit of a shock, but then, I kind of have a bit of a smile about it as well. So sometimes when we don't win a contract for work, social impact, say, oh no, that's no good. And then you find out who did win, and it's one of our former students, which is fine, great. And usually it's more than one in the group that, we're thinking of one just right now. It does happen. Galen?
I think just, well, I mean, Renu, teaches you about understanding yourself, but your own strengths, and then just think of your, like you've got your experience and your strengths and your network and your career. There's often huge opportunities, untapped potential in that overlap, and often you're in that space and nobody else is because you're quite unique, as an individual. So I think it's just trying to recognize that there's always opportunity for impact from your relatively unique perspective, even in the room that you're in. So it's great. And this is my favorite alumni out of all of the alumni.
Which you have many, Galen. The only thing I can say, and seeing as I kind of have the last word, and I'll say it is when all is said and done, this is one area that AI cannot do. So, do consider it because this is all that's going to be left for us humans.
Very good point. All right, with that, thank our panel. And the team behind this, Kath as well, who set this up as Centre Manager. And I might mention, because I didn't go through there's scholarships. I'm going to just mention scholarships because scholarships have just opened for next year.
And apply. I applied and
Apply.
just thought, well, why not? And was astonished that I was successful. So absolutely everything behind it.
Absolutely. Good work. And so we have the scholarships on the CSI website
Yeah, so we put a link in the chat.
to the scholarships area. Yeah, so have a look for that. Because the grad cert is actually expensive, so we can't deny it. The MBA at UWA is expensive. And we try and, for some, mitigate some of those costs, but through the scholarships. But you do know that the grad cert units are articulated 100% for the MBA. They are electives of the MBA. Good, fantastic. Well, thanks so much. And outside, we have a lot of goodies for you to have a little bit of a nibble on as you go. So stick around and chat further to the group. And thanks so much to the panel. Thank you. Thanks.